7 signs a woman is in love with you but scared to show it. Psychology tricks. Love is what happens when fear meets truth. Let's be real. If you feel something unspoken between you and her, you're probably not imagining it. The lingering looks, the sudden distance, the energy that pulls you close and then pushes you apart, those are rarely accidents. A woman who's in love but afraid won't say it first. She shows it in subtle ways her mind can't fully control. Before assuming she's playing games, understand this. Her first struggle isn't with you, it's with herself. She's not scared of getting hurt by you. She's scared of how much she already cares. That's why she opens up, then retreats. It's not a lack of interest. It's emotional conflict. When feelings rise faster than her defenses can manage, they leak through. And if you stay calm, grounded, and patient, the truth always reveals itself. 1. She becomes emotionally hyper-aware of you. When a woman is in love with you but afraid to show it, one of the clearest signals hides in plain sight. She becomes emotionally hyper-aware of you, and this is where female psychology quietly reveals itself, because she is no longer just seeing you. She is studying you with a kind of focused attention that feels almost instinctive, noticing how you speak to strangers, how your voice changes under pressure, how you react when plans fall apart, how you treat people who disagree with you, how you carry yourself when no one is applauding, and you might mistake this for distance or silence, but don't, because that pause before she answers your text, that brief stillness when you share something personal, that subtle shift in her tone is not confusion and not indifference. That is analysis in motion, the kind driven by emotion rather than logic, because she is asking herself one essential question without ever saying it out loud. Is it safe to care here? And you must understand this clearly. She is not looking for perfection. She is looking for consistency, for emotional steadiness, for signs that you can hold space when life presses in. And this is why psychology tricks rarely work on a woman in this state. Because she is not responding to words. She is responding to patterns, to behavior repeated over time, to how you manage disappointment, to whether your calm is real or performative, and that intense awareness you feel from her. The way she seems to remember small details you forgot you shared, the way she notices changes in your mood before you mention them, that is not accidental. That is her emotional radar turned all the way up. Because part of how to fall in love safely is to gather information quietly, without announcing the risk. And be honest with yourself here. You felt it. The way she listens just a little longer. The way she asks questions that seem casual, but land precisely where your values live. The way she watches rather than interrupts when you're stressed, and don't dismiss this as overthinking, be attentive instead, because in female psychology this kind of observation is an act of care, not caution alone. She feels deeply but measures carefully. She wants to know if your actions align with your promises, if your patience holds when things are inconvenient, if your respect stays steady when no one is watching, and that hesitation you sense, that moment where she almost opens up then pulls back, that is the emotional equivalent of standing at the edge of a pool, testing the water before stepping in, not because she doesn't want to swim, but because once she does, she plans to be all in, and this is why you must not rush her. Don't pressure her to explain feelings she hasn't fully given herself permission to express. Don't demand reassurance when she is still building trust internally. Be steady, be clear, be emotionally present. That is how you speak to her without words. Because psychology. Tricks fail where authenticity succeeds, and if you are wondering how to fall in love in a way that lasts, understand this moment matters more than grand gestures. She is watching how you show up in the ordinary spaces, how you respond to misunderstandings, how you recover from tension, how you treat her boundaries even when they frustrate you. And here is the quiet truth. She won't tell you she is feeling everything, but she is every shift in energy, every inconsistency, every small kindness. All of it is being felt and processed. And if you handle this phase with patience and integrity, if you remain grounded rather than reactive, if you let her arrive emotionally in her own time, something powerful happens. Her awareness softens into trust. Her analysis turns into openness, and that careful watching becomes connection, because in female psychology, love that feels safe grows slowly but deeply, and when she finally stops observing and starts leaning in, it won't be tentative. It will be intentional, and that is when you realize her silence was never absence, it was preparation, guided not by fear, but by a deep desire to love wisely, not impulsively, and that, more than any psychology tricks, is the foundation of real connection and a lasting answer to how to fall in love without losing yourself. 2. She pulls away when her feelings become too intense. When a woman pulls away just as things start to feel intense, don't rush to the wrong conclusion, because when a woman is in love but scared, distance is not rejection, it is regulation. It is her way of catching her breath when emotion hits faster than logic can keep up, and this matters, because the stronger her feelings grow, the more she feels the need to step back, not to escape you, but to study herself, to slow her heartbeat, to remind herself that she is still standing on solid ground. And you must hear this clearly. She is not creating space because you did something wrong. She is creating space because what she feels is powerful enough to unsettle her sense of control. And that can be frightening when love arrives unexpectedly and refuses to stay small. She needs room to breathe, not silence forever, not disappearance, just enough space to regain balance. Be calm here. Don't chase. Don't pressure. Don't demand explanations while she is still trying to understand her own emotional surge. The more she tries to suppress what she feels, the stronger it becomes, like holding a beach ball underwater, because emotion does not vanish when ignored. It gathers strength, and her pulling away is often the clearest sign that she is feeling more than she planned to feel. That is not distance born from doubt. That is depth asking for time. Her fear is not rejection. It is depth. That line matters. Sit with it. She isn't scared of you. She is scared of how deeply she feels when she is around you. She isn't running from connection. She is running from the version of herself that loves without armor, without hesitation, without a safety net. A version that only appears when someone touches her soul. That version feels exposed. That version feels honest. That version feels irreversible. And not everyone is ready to meet themselves there without pausing first. Understand this from the perspective of a high-value man. A grounded man does not panic when emotion expands. He does not interpret space as loss. He understands rhythm. Be steady. Be composed. That is how you attract women who are emotionally aware but cautious with their hearts. Masculine energy is not loud here. It is calm. It is patience. It is confidence without urgency. When she steps back, your role is not to pull harder. Your role is to remain consistent so she can step forward again without fear. She is not testing you. She is protecting herself while trying to understand whether this connection can safely hold her intensity. When a woman feels deeply, she knows the cost of attachment. She knows what it means to care fully. She knows that once she commits emotionally, she does not do it halfway. So when she pulls away, she is asking herself serious questions. Can I trust this feeling? Can I trust myself with it? Can I trust him not to misuse what I offer? That pause is her internal conversation. Respect it. Don't misread her silence. Silence is not absence of feeling. Often it is the presence of too much feeling at once. Be patient. Be observant. That is how you attract women without force. A high-value man does not need to rush clarity. He allows it to emerge. He understands that real attraction grows where safety and desire meet. Masculine energy in this moment looks like restraint, not pursuit. She isn't disappearing to punish you. She is recalibrating. She is slowing herself down so she doesn't leap before she is emotionally ready to land. If you react with anxiety, she feels pressure. If you react with calm assurance, she feels relief. That contrast matters. One response pushes her further away. The other quietly invites her back. Choose wisely. And here is the deeper truth most men miss. When she pulls away because her feelings are intense, it means you have already crossed an emotional threshold with her. You matter. You have stirred something real. That does not happen casually. That happens when a man's presence feels grounding, intriguing, and emotionally significant. That is why staying centered is essential. That is why being a high value man is not about control, but about emotional steadiness. She is not afraid of love itself. She is afraid of losing herself inside it. And paradoxically, the man who gives her the space to find her footing becomes the man she trusts enough to return to. Don't argue with her process. Don't demand reassurance while she is gathering courage. Be consistent. Be kind. Be emotionally clear without being demanding. That is how you attract women who feel deeply but move carefully. Masculine energy here means holding your ground without hardening your heart. It means allowing her emotional wave to pass without trying to redirect it. When she feels that you are not shaken by intensity, she learns that her depth is safe with you. That lesson stays. And when she comes back, she does not come back uncertain. She comes back knowing she chose you freely, not under pressure. So remember this. She isn't running from you. She's running from the version of herself that loves too deeply, too honestly, too completely. A version that only appears when something real is at stake. If you can respect that, if you can remain steady instead of reactive, you do more than keep her interest. You become the man she feels safe stepping toward. That is how you attract women with substance. That is how masculine energy speaks without raising its voice. That is what a high-value man understands instinctively. And if this resonated with you, don't scroll past it. Act. Drop a comment right now that says, I stay calm when emotions rise. Like this video, subscribe for more clear, grounded psychology insights, and remind yourself daily, when she pulls back, it's not distance. It's depth finding balance. 3. Her body reacts before her words do. When a woman is truly in love with you but afraid to show it, her body will always speak before her mouth dares to. And this is not speculation. It is human psychology backed by centuries of observation. Because attraction that feels meaningful creates internal pressure, and pressure leaks through behavior. You see it in the small things first. Not dramatic confessions, not emotional speeches, but micro reactions that happen before conscious control can intervene. Her hands move without purpose. Her breathing changes when you step closer. Her laughter shifts tone and timing. Her voice softens without intention. And her eyes, those eyes, lose their ability to hold contact the moment intimacy approaches, not because she lacks interest, but because the emotion is stronger than her ability to regulate it. And as Carl Jung said, the emotion that can break your heart is sometimes the very one that heals it, and that inner conflict is exactly what you are witnessing. Modern life has trained people to guard their emotions, to avoid vulnerability, to delay trust, especially women who have learned through experience that attachment can be costly. So when she feels something real with you, her mind hesitates while her nervous system reacts instantly, because the body does not lie, it only responds. And this is where Old Stoic wisdom becomes useful for you as a man, because the Stoics taught that what is involuntary reveals truth, while words are often filtered through fear. And if you understand this, you stop chasing reassurance and start reading reality. Her self-consciousness is not insecurity about you, it is awareness of the weight of the connection. She replays her actions not because she doubts your interest, but because she questions whether she is ready for what her heart is signaling. And Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you always own the option of having no opinion, which means your strength here is not to interrogate her signals, but to remain grounded, calm, steady, because calm creates safety, and safety allows truth to surface. In today's world of constant noise, endless messages, and shallow validation, genuine emotional pull feels intense, almost dangerous. So when she feels it, her system goes into alert mode. Her body leans in while her mind pulls back, and your role is not to push, not to demand clarity, but to hold frame, because men with an iron mind do not react to every signal. They observe patterns, they stay consistent. They let attraction breathe. Confidence here is quiet, not loud. It is shown by patience, by presence, by not flinching when her energy shifts, because these shifts are proof of depth, not confusion. As Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be. And then do what you have to do. And what you must be in this moment is stable, decisive, and emotionally unshaken. Because when she senses that you are not trying to extract something from her, not chasing validation, not afraid of silence, her fear relaxes and her feelings feel safer to express. This is how Stoicism plays out in modern relationships, not by emotional distance, but by emotional regulation. By understanding that attraction unfolds naturally when pressure is removed, and the victory here is internal first, because men who master themselves master outcomes. You don't interpret her reactions as mixed signals, you interpret them as data. Consistent data that says her interest exceeds her comfort. And that gap is bridged by time and trust, not words. In a culture that encourages oversharing and emotional urgency, your restraint becomes magnetic, your steadiness becomes rare, and rarity commands attention. Remember, her body reacting before her words is not a puzzle to solve. It is confirmation to respect. And when you combine this awareness with Old Stoic wisdom, you stop needing reassurance and start leading the emotional tempo naturally, which is what creates attraction that lasts. The man who understands this does not rush, does not doubt, does not overthink. He stays present, he stays composed, he stays intentional, and that is how iron mind thinking transforms connection into something real, something earned, something mutual. Because strength in modern love is not force, it is clarity, and clarity always wins. 4. She distances herself while staying emotionally connected. When a woman is falling in love but frightened by the depth of it, she often does the opposite of what men expect, and this is where confusion begins, because instead of leaning in, she steps back, not dramatically, not cruelly, but subtly, carefully, almost strategically, responding a little slower than before, suddenly appearing busier, creating just enough distance to steady her racing thoughts. And you must understand this clearly. That is not disinterest. That is self-preservation at work, a quiet reflex rooted deeply in female psychology, because when emotions grow intense, her mind searches for safety before surrender, and love, real love, feels risky to someone who has learned that attachment can cost more than it gives. Don't assume silence means indifference. Don't mistake space for rejection, because while she pulls back physically or socially, she stays emotionally tethered in ways that are almost impossible to fake, still watching your stories, still remembering the small details you casually shared weeks ago, still finding reasons to be near you without announcing it, still stealing glances when she thinks your attention is elsewhere, and that contradiction, distance mixed with devotion, is one of the most misunderstood signals men face, yet it is also one of the clearest signs a woman is in love, but scared to show it. Be attentive here, because her behavior is split between heart and mind, with the heart reaching and the mind applying the brakes, classic internal tug of war explained by psychology tricks that reveal how emotional attachment often breaks through even the strongest internal boundaries. You'll notice it when you talk to other women and the air subtly changes, when her tone shifts just slightly, when her energy tightens, when the conversation carries a quiet weight that wasn't there before, and you'll feel it too, that unspoken pull, that invisible thread she refuses to name but cannot cut because attachment has already formed, and denial only slows it down. It does not erase it. Don't confront her about it. Don't pressure her to explain feelings she hasn't fully sorted out herself, because pressure collapses trust and urgency triggers retreat. Instead, be steady. Be grounded. Be consistent, because consistency feels safe to a woman who is afraid of falling too fast, and safety is the bridge between fear and love. Understand that many women learned early on that showing emotion too quickly leads to disappointment, so they pace themselves, not to manipulate, not to test you, but to protect the parts of themselves that feel most exposed. And this is where men who understand how to fall in love without forcing it gain an advantage. Because patience is not passive, patience is powerful, and calm presence speaks louder than pursuit. Notice how she distances herself just enough to breathe, yet never enough to disappear, how she keeps one foot in the connection even while pretending she's standing elsewhere, how her attention slips when you laugh, how her memory sharpens around your words, how her body language contradicts her restraint, and remind yourself that emotions do not follow logic, they follow safety, timing, and trust. Don't chase the distance, don't punish the pause, don't fill the silence with assumptions, because that creates stories that aren't real. Instead, observe, stay open, and let her emotional rhythm unfold naturally, because love that is rushed feels dangerous to her, but love that is steady feels inviting. This pattern, distancing while staying emotionally connected, shows up repeatedly in female psychology, especially when attraction runs deep and vulnerability feels close. And psychology tricks teach us that what is resisted most intensely is often what is desired most strongly, which is why her defenses leak through in quiet ways she doesn't even notice. Be aware that when a woman is truly disengaged, she disconnects completely, emotionally and mentally. But when she is scared and attached, she hovers, she watches, she remembers, she feels, and she struggles with the very thing she wants. And that struggle is not your enemy, it is your signal. You must recognize that real connection doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers through hesitation, through tension, through restraint, and understanding this distinction changes everything. Because once you see that her distance is not absence but caution, you stop reacting and start responding wisely. Don't demand clarity too soon. Don't label the connection prematurely. Be present without pressure, confident without urgency, and let her nervous system relax around you. Because when fear dissolves, affection rises naturally, and that is how to fall in love without forcing, without games, without confusion. Remember, psychology tricks don't work when they're used to control. They work when they help you understand, and understanding female. Psychology means realizing that love doesn't always rush forward. Sometimes it circles carefully before landing, and when it does, it lands deeply, deliberately, and for real. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs clarity instead of confusion, and subscribe for more insight into psychology tricks, female psychology, and how to fall in love without pressure or games. To lock this lesson into your mindset and strengthen your confidence, comment this affirmation below and mean it. I understand emotional distance without taking it personally. Your comment tells the algorithm you're engaged, and more importantly, it reminds you that patience, awareness, and calm strength are what turn confusion into connection. 5. She becomes emotionally synced with you. She becomes emotionally synced with you in ways that are almost invisible at first, and this is where things quietly shift from casual to meaningful. She notices the smallest changes in you, a shift in your tone that others miss, a drop in your mood you never explain, a quiet withdrawal you think you hid well. That level of awareness doesn't come from curiosity. It comes from connection. Be clear about this. Emotional synchronization is not accidental. It's the mind and heart tuning themselves to another frequency, and when a woman is scared to show love, this tuning becomes intense, precise, and sometimes overwhelming for her. She may never say it out loud, she may even deny it to herself, but she feels connected, and that connection both comforts and unsettles her at the same time. A woman who is afraid to express love doesn't feel less. She feels more. That is the part most men misunderstand. When her emotional radar sharpens around you, when she senses your inner shifts before you name them, it's because her nervous system has already made you important. That importance can feel risky. Don't underestimate how vulnerable emotional awareness makes her feel. When she knows your moods before you speak, when your silence affects her energy, when your presence changes her internal rhythm, she realizes she's no longer neutral. She's invested. And investment, to someone who values emotional safety, requires caution. So when she acts both close and distant at the same time, don't assume confusion. Assume depth. Assume meaning. Assume a heart trying to love carefully because it already loves deeply. That push and pull is not chaos. It's regulation. She is managing feelings that arrived faster than she expected. Be patient here. Don't rush her into clarity she hasn't fully formed. You must understand that emotional synchronization often comes before emotional confession, especially in women who have learned to protect their inner world. This is where your role matters. Don't chase the closeness when she pulls back. Don't punish the distance when it appears. Be steady. Be grounded. Be consistent. A high-value man doesn't react emotionally to every fluctuation. He observes. He understands. He stays calm. Emotional stability is attractive because it feels safe, and safety allows feelings to breathe instead of hiding. When you remain centered, you allow her to settle into the connection without feeling pressured to define it prematurely. Notice how she mirrors your energy without copying it. When you're calm, she softens. When you're thoughtful, she becomes reflective. When you pull inward, she senses it immediately. That's emotional syncing in action. It's subtle, it's quiet, and it's powerful. This is one of the most overlooked ways men attract women without effort. Emotional presence speaks louder than charm. Consistency speaks louder than persuasion. Masculine energy, at its healthiest, is not loud or forceful. It's stable, calm, and reliable. That is what her nervous system responds to. Don't confuse emotional syncing with neediness. That assumption blinds men to what's actually happening. She's not losing herself. She's attuning herself. There's a difference. And when that attunement scares her, she may step back just enough to regain balance while still staying connected. That balance is delicate. Respect it. A high-value man respects emotional pacing without withdrawing his presence or his integrity. You must also recognize that when she's emotionally synced with you, she feels your reactions more intensely. Your frustration feels louder to her. Your indifference feels heavier. Your calm confidence feels reassuring. That's why self-mastery matters here. Be intentional. Be measured. Don't test her emotions. Don't play distance games. Those strategies break trust instead of building attraction. If you want to attract women who are emotionally aware, you must meet awareness with maturity. There's something quietly beautiful about this stage. She's learning you without trying to own you. She's feeling you without demanding anything from you. And yet, she's aware that her heart is involved. That awareness is what makes her cautious. It's also what makes the bond meaningful. Emotional syncing doesn't happen with everyone. It happens when something real is forming beneath the surface. Masculine energy shows itself best here through restraint and presence. Speak clearly. Act consistently. Don't over-explain. Don't withdraw to provoke reaction. Be the man who doesn't need to manipulate connection because he understands it. That is how a high-value man moves. Quiet confidence. Emotional steadiness. Clear intention. These traits naturally attract women who are emotionally perceptive because they feel safe aligning with someone who isn't ruled by impulse. And remember this, when a woman feels emotionally synced with you, she's already halfway bonded. She's listening with more than her ears. She's responding with more than logic. That doesn't mean she's ready to leap forward. It means she's deciding whether the ground is stable enough to stand on. You must be that ground. Not by doing more, but by being consistent. So don't rush the process. Don't demand certainty. Be present. Be calm. Be reliable. Emotional syncing is a quiet form of intimacy, and when handled with patience and clarity, it becomes one of the strongest foundations for attraction and trust. That is how you attract women without forcing outcomes. That is how masculine energy creates space for love to emerge naturally. And that is how a high-value man allows connection to deepen without fear, pressure, or confusion. 6. She reveals herself only in quiet, unspoken ways. Here is the truth you need to hear, and you need to hear it without softness or hesitation. When a woman is in love but afraid to show it, she does not announce it, she reveals it, and she does so in silence, in patterns, in restraint, and in consistency. And this is where men who live by Old Stoic wisdom see clearly while others remain confused, because love under fear is not loud, it is precise, and it shows up in the smallest unspoken moments that repeat again and again, a lingering glance. That lasts half a second longer than necessary, a smile that warms before it fades, A quiet act of care she never explains and never claims credit for. And this is not coincidence. This is intention under control. Because she remembers details you forgot you ever shared. She notices the tension in your shoulders before you say a word. She listens when you talk about fears you don't admit to anyone else, and she stores that information not to use it, but to protect you with it. And men who understand psychology know this is emotional investment restrained by caution, not uncertainty, because as Marcus Aurelius said, what stands in the way becomes the way, and here fear does not erase love. It shapes how love moves, slowly, deliberately, safely, especially in a modern world where past disappointments, failed relationships, and emotional risk have taught many people to guard what matters most. So her push and pull is not confusion, it is calibration, it is love balancing. Against fear, and when she distances herself yet finds subtle ways to stay connected, a message that checks on you without demanding anything, a question about your day framed as casual, but asked with precision, a presence that never fully leaves. That is emotional gravity at work, and gravity never disappears. It only shifts its position, and this is where your role becomes critical. Because the man who reacts emotionally, who pressures, who demands clarity before safety exists, loses the moment, while the man who stands firm, patient, observant, and grounded wins quietly. This is Stoicism win in real life, not theory, not philosophy on a page, but applied discipline in how you respond, how you wait, how you lead without force. Because Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response there is a space, and in that space is our power, and your power here is restraint, calm, and consistency, the iron mind that does not chase validation but creates safety through presence, through reliability, through emotional steadiness. Because when she feels that you are not threatened by silence, not rattled by distance, not shaken by her hesitation, her fear begins to dissolve on its own, and this is not manipulation. This is psychological alignment, because people move toward what feels secure, and security today is rare, especially for men navigating modern life where signals are mixed. Attention is fragmented, and sincerity is often disguised as indifference. So your instruction is simple but not easy. Do not interrogate her feelings, observe her behavior, do not demand emotional exposure. Invite it by example. Do not over-communicate, communicate with weight, because as Maya Angelou said, people may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel, and how you make her feel is calm, steady, unpressured, and respected, and when you show her that her quiet expressions are seen, not exploited, that her care is received, not questioned, that her fear does not scare you away, she begins to trust the future she is quietly mapping in her mind, a future she is afraid to imagine out loud, but is already preparing for internally. And this is where Old Stoic wisdom applies again. Because the Stoics understood that the strongest influence is invisible, that mastery is internal before it is external, and that patience is not passivity, but power held in reserve. And when you live this way, you embody iron mind not as rigidity, but as clarity, clarity in your values, clarity in your reactions, clarity in your self-respect. And this clarity is magnetic. It creates a sense of victory, not because you conquered anything, but because you mastered yourself. And mastery is the highest form of success, especially in relationships, because love that is afraid needs space to breathe, not pressure to perform, and the man who understands this does not rush outcomes. He builds foundations. He shows up consistently. He listens. Without fixing, he leads without control, and he allows her quiet love to grow at its own pace until fear no longer has a reason to stay. And when that happens, her affection becomes visible not because you forced it, but because you earned it. And this is how Stoicism win looks in modern life. This is how Old Stoic wisdom protects you from misreading signals. And this is how an iron mind turns uncertainty into clarity without ever raising its voice. 7. Her feelings slip out in moments she didn't plan. And this is where a man with experience learns to read reality instead of words, because when a woman is relaxed, tired, laughing, distracted, or emotionally unguarded, The careful structure she uses to protect herself softens, and what she truly feels leaks through in small but unmistakable ways. She may show concern that goes far beyond the moment, ask questions that reveal long term thinking, react to the idea of you with another woman more strongly than expected, or say something deeply personal and then immediately pull back, change the subject, or minimize it, and that retreat is not rejection, it is self protection, because fear does not erase love, it hides it, and as Carl Jung once said, where love rules, there is no will to power. Meaning real emotion does not announce itself loudly. It reveals itself when control relaxes, and in modern life, where people are conditioned to guard emotions due to past disappointments, social pressure, and endless options, this pattern is more common than ever. A woman who is scared to show love will not chase. She will test safety. She will observe how you respond when she slips, and your response matters more than her confession, because strength here is not pressure, it is steadiness. It is silence when silence is needed. It is consistency without demand. And this is where Old Stoic wisdom becomes practical instruction, because Stoicism teaches that mastery begins with self-command, not emotional reaction, and when her feelings surface unexpectedly and then retreat. The man who understands human nature does not interrogate, tease, or demand clarity. He stays grounded. He stays calm. He stays predictable in the best way. Because nothing makes emotional fear dissolve faster than emotional safety. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And in relationships, that means you do not react to fear with insecurity. You respond with composure, and this is how. Stoicism win plays out in real relationships, not in theory, but in daily interactions, where your iron mind allows you to recognize that unplanned emotion is more honest than rehearsed affection, more revealing than polished words, and far more valuable than dramatic declarations. If she shows concern for your health, your stress, your future, or your mood in moments when she is not thinking, that is attachment. If she slips into protectiveness, curiosity, or subtle jealousy and then quickly masks it, that is emotional investment trying to stay hidden. And the advice here is simple but demanding. Do not rush her. Do not label her. Do not force clarity before safety exists, because love that feels pressured turns inward, while love that feels respected slowly steps forward. Modern men are often told to chase signals, decode texts, or provoke reactions, but a man grounded in Old Stoic wisdom knows that attraction deepens in calm environments, not emotional chaos. And when you maintain your pace, your purpose, and your self-respect, her fear has nothing to push against, nothing to fight, nothing to resist, and resistance fades when there is no pressure. As Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response there is a space, and your power lives in that space, especially when her emotions surface unexpectedly, because your composed response teaches her that her honesty will not cost her control, that her vulnerability will not be punished, and that is how trust is. Built without words. This is not about manipulation, it is about leadership through emotional stability, the kind that makes people feel safe enough to be real. And when you combine this with consistency over time, the moments where her feelings slip out will become less rare, less rushed, less hidden, because fear weakens in the presence of certainty, and certainty is created by a man who does not flinch, does not chase, and does not disappear. This is how Stoicism shows up in modern dating, where distractions are endless but depth is rare, and the man with an iron mind understands that love does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives quietly, accidentally, and then waits to see if it is safe to stay. And your job is not to demand proof. Your job is to remain solid, because when you do, what once slipped out by accident will eventually be offered on purpose, and that is how you master relationships, master yourself, and master life. Hey, I'm really glad you stayed until the end. Here's something important to remember. Love doesn't always show up in obvious ways. Real feelings can be quiet, cautious, and sometimes wrapped in fear. Fear does not erase love. Hesitation does not cancel connection. And mixed signals do not mean indifference. More often than not, they mean she feels something real and is afraid of what that feeling could cost her. Every subtle glance, Every small act of care, every moment where emotions feel intense but unspoken, those aren't accidents. They're signals. They're a roadmap to her heart. Her heart may have already chosen you, even if her words haven't caught up yet. People don't protect what they don't value, and they don't hesitate over what doesn't matter. Here's the sincere advice: don't rush her, and don't doubt yourself too quickly. If you sense consistency beneath the confusion, lean into patience instead of pressure. Show emotional safety through your actions. Stay grounded, stay respectful, and let trust build naturally. When someone's fear is mixed with love, the emotions are stronger, deeper, and more intense than they appear on the surface. Ask yourself this: can you recognize the balance between her fear and her feelings? Because when love is real, it always leaves clues. And if this helped you see what you might have been missing, share it with someone who needs to hear this truth today.